Welcome to the Silvers Connection. I'm Ernie Silvers, your host. Drop us a line at mba@csusb.edu if you have any questions. My special guest today is Susie Pryor. Susie, welcome.
Thank you, Ernie. Great to be here.
Happy to have you here. We're going to be talking about the entrepreneurial mindset today, and I can't wait to get into this with Susie. Susie and I, by the way, this is the radio show that never happened. It was supposed to happen, so this is the first time it's going to happen. Susie and I were supposed to do a radio show together, and today we're going to do that. So, Susie, let me tell you a little bit about Susie. Susie is a serial entrepreneur who has launched 8 successful small businesses since 1995, and she has some really cool businesses she currently works on that I'll have to get her to tell you about. She holds an undergrad degree in management and human relations, an MBA, PhD in business with an emphasis on marketing, 25 years of business consulting. This woman knows her stuff. She is amazing. She was very instrumental in helping Cal State San Bernardino put together its Master in Entrepreneurship, which is fixing to launch soon. So thank you for that, Susie. She's Associate Director at the Don and Charlene Lamberti Center for Rural Entrepreneurship. That's awesome. Also a Professor of Entrepreneurship at Buena Vista University. Her current research examines workplace bullying. She's a vigorous advocate for workplace inclusion with a particular interest in autism education, and that is amazing. Susie, I want to unpack that maybe a little bit later on in the show and talk about that, but that's folks with special needs who also can be entrepreneurial and unlocking that entrepreneurial mindset. So Susie, welcome to the show. What are you working on right now, Susie? You're busy.
I got a couple things going, Ernie.
I know, you're always busy. You're kind of crazy that way. What's happening?
Yeah, so I guess on the entrepreneurship side, I currently own what I call a boutique dog boarding daycare grooming facility near the Kansas City airport. And like many others, I was closed for 7 weeks during a shutdown. So restarting, reinvigorating that has been really what's consumed me since mid-May.
Okay.
And been a joy, and our customers have just been absolutely amazing in terms of buying unnecessary dog groom so that we can continue forward, right? So that's been great.
Support your local entrepreneur.
Yes, support your entrepreneur. And then, just before we shut down in March in the Midwest, and I was just getting ready. I just purchased a little defunct Cupcakery up in Alta, Iowa, which is next to Storm Lake, little lake community. And I was planning on opening that in a Memorial Day weekend. It was going to be a seasonal, sort of a lake type of business, right? Memorial Day through Labor Day. And I was hoping to call it Ruth 1892, which was his woman who had owned that little building and went on to be an incredible, she'd be a whole other story for you, Ernie. But a really fascinating woman who was at one time touted as the world's oldest blogger. She was blogging at 102 years of age. Oh my God. I was going to put in a little wood fire pizza place and dog friendly because I love dogs. And of course, then Iowa's businesses, restaurants and bars shut down just as all of this occurred. So that is a back burner project. But, the upside is that instead of rushing to open, I now have a little luxury of time, and I'm trying to put some sustainable elements in that I wouldn't have had time to do originally. I'm going to, sustainable furnishings and things. So that's a project that, stay tuned, invite me back next summer, and maybe that will be rolling. And then, seriously, on the side of the Center for Rural Entrepreneurship, we've just sourced a downtown, a Main Street building to move into. So work's going into that space right now so that this fall we can be using that space. And my job really largely over the summer has been working on curriculum development and workshop development. Going into the fall, I'm our grant writer person, so I'm working on some USDA grants.
The thing about being an entrepreneur is you find yourself doing lots of things all the time, so it never slows down for Susie Pryor,
never.
Does it?
No,
and I have to
I'm sure it never slows down for Ernie Silvers either.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about. So you slipped this in there, and I'm not going to let you get away. I'm going to back you up. What in the world is a cupcakery? That is the most amazing phrase, a cupcakery.
Cupcakery, right?
Is it what it obviously sounds like, or what is it exactly?
It is exactly what it sounds like. It's just marvelous cupcakes. So the truth is, and so I know we're going to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset, and this is a great example. When I started looking at this position up in Iowa, I discovered no housing. And one of the reasons I almost didn't take this position, I said, I can't find a place to live. I'm not sure this is going to work for me. But I love small towns, so I started driving around. So even though I hadn't accepted a position, I bought a cupcakery because there's this cute little building for sale. And it had just been sitting on the market and had been closed for about a year. Mm-hmm. And so I walked in, and it is turnkey, fabulous commercial kitchen. All of anything you could possibly want to do baking is there. Wonderful outdoor multi-level deck, all the furnishings, just absolutely. In fact, I feel really guilty that I bought this opportunity because some young person out there should have bought this. I mean, for $65,000, you have a living, you know. And I'm never going to make a cupcake in my life, so it is wasted on me. I'm handing out these fabulous mixers to all my friends for Christmas because I'm not going to use them.
Oh my God.
I'm putting in wood-fired pizza ovens.
Wood-fired pizza. Okay. All right. So let's move along on with what we're talking about. And just to recap, bring us up to speed. We are delving into, of course, we're all in the throes of the COVID situation and multiple shutdowns. We have been talking about how we as individuals, either as students or recent grads or alumni, folks that have been recently displaced in some sort of a job change, job challenge, what have you, how do we deal with that? And it occurred to me that the entrepreneurial mindset can play a huge role. Now, we don't often understand, it's a big word that I can't spell, and we don't have any idea what it really is. So I'm going to ask you, Susie, can you help us understand what is the entrepreneurial mindset?
Okay. Well, I sure can. I'm going to sound a little bit academic for a moment, but
okay.
You know, our conventional definition of entrepreneur is an individual who pursues opportunities without regard to resources that they own. Mm-hmm. So you get an idea and nothing stops you. You may not have money, you may not have credit, you may not know how to code, but you move forward. So that's a big part of what entrepreneurship is that forward movement on things that fascinate you or you want to launch or you think adds value. And the mindset itself, and when you run into somebody who has this, you recognize it immediately. It really is not just the ability to find marketplace opportunities. That's, you know, I'm not even sure I'm that good at that. But it is the opportunity or the ability to overcome challenges. Okay. To tend to frame things as an opportunity versus a setback. So it is definitely a way of looking at problem solving that is extraordinarily proactive and forward thinking. The capacity to welcome change, even if you don't seek out change, not to shirk away from it. Right. Folks who have this mindset tend to be very accountable for their own circumstances. So some people would say, is it a risk taking? Well, I think it's just they recognize that if I'm going to put a meal on my table tonight, it falls on me. And right. So you tend to find people who are just happen to be also very hardworking and willing to do what it takes. Okay, so it's all about looking at the situation and trying to figure out there's got to be a way to solve this problem. Correct. And if I don't have that ability, or what you've just said to me is like, no, I don't do that. How can I adjust my thinking or my perspective and start to become we teach entrepreneurial practices and behavior, right? And a misnomer is, I think that some people believe if they take an entrepreneurial course, they're going to instantly become an entrepreneur. And the reality is that's not quite what happens. So help us with that. How do I become entrepreneurial? So, I think it's like anything. A couple of years ago, I started running half marathons. I am the woman least likely to run, right? So 2 things happened. One was my social network. I had a friend who said, I'd like to do a half marathon. And so somebody introduced the idea to me that that's a possibility, right? So part of it is you are kind of who you hang out with. Yep. If you tend to hang out with curmudgeons, sooner or later you're going to become one, right? So it is seeking out, and it may be through your social media, or it may be through the media you engage with or absorb, even if it's not in your immediate friendship circle.
Okay.
But the more sources of innovative, creative thinking, maybe you just binge watch TED Talks, but part of it is just loosening that bolt in your brain that prevents you from bouncing ideas around. And once you can do that, it becomes easier and easier. So I think one thing is immersing yourself in people and experiences that are open to change and innovation. So that would, for me, is a key component. The second thing is really, it is about reframing. It is about catching yourself when you have the instinct to say no, where there's only one way or one solution, and to begin just generating ideas and solutions to problems. And you start practicing that. Well, I never got good at running, but you can get good at this if you practice, right? Creative idea generation. You get good at it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing though is if I'm going to do something I've never done before, I'm probably going to fail. I'm afraid of failure. You're scaring me to death. What do I do now? Do entrepreneurs fail?
They fail. Ernie, they fail, right?
No, you're telling me I don't want to fail.
I know. I used to want to have a little company that made charms for entrepreneurs, and you had to earn them, right? You had to wake up at 2 a.m. in a deep sweat to get the sweat charm, and you had to fail to get the fail charm. So for me, it is a badge, and if you have not failed, either it's coming, or you have been a real slow growth conservative, or you've been blessed and lucky. But among entrepreneurs, everybody's got their failure story, and that's part of how you earn membership in the club.
Yeah.
So it is a part of the reality. Do you try to moderate failure? Yes. Can it be painful? Yes. But I think one of the interesting things about entrepreneurs is they see the next entrepreneurial move as the way to recover from the past failure.
Right.
They don't go, oh my gosh, I better go back and get a higher paying job and bail myself out. They say, what can I do next that might make up that loss and some, right?
Yeah.
And that's really how I think.
Right. I didn't lose. I learned. I either learned what not to do, what didn't work, what almost worked, what could have worked. I tell people that if you are afraid of failure, and most of us are at some level, but the only way that it's like a muscle. The only way you grow that muscle is to fail often, right?
That's right.
And not to be stupid, not to be negligent, not to be on purpose dumb, but if you try new things, you're gonna have some boo-boos.
Yes.
Right? If you never get
That's absolutely right.
If you never get off the bench, you never make an error.
That's right. Well, we have this expression in entrepreneurship, fail fast. So you're right. Once you've failed once, then you accelerate that failure process and you learn more quickly. So that is another part of the entrepreneurial mindset, is that most entrepreneurs, whether they say this about themselves or not, they are learning machines, right? They are always absorbing information and learning.
Entrepreneurs are typically, if I understand, they are typically obsessed. Are they obsessed individuals?
Yes. They're obsessed individuals.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
It's so funny you should say that, because I've just hired an employee so that I can, go back to work in the fall in my real job. And I got off work yesterday at 4, and I'm just like, now what? What do I do for the next 6 hours of my day?
A whole 6 hours, nothing to do.
Yeah, till I go to bed at 10, right?
That's like an eternity, right?
I know, it was awful. And then, of course, in the middle of the night, I thought about all the great, I could have put my bowflights together. Why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
But they are obsessed. And so you do, I'll tell you, one of the downsides can be, it could take you full on personal relationships. You do get very caught up in whatever you're working on, and you do lose track of time. And so there, I certainly tell that to students. It can be a very lonely journey because you think differently. But it can also be a lonely journey because everyone around you is annoyed by the fact you're not necessarily available all the time.
Right. Yeah, because you're obsessed trying to figure out whatever it is you're trying to figure out, and you don't have time to do whatever it is they're doing, which is usually trying to get you away from doing what you were doing.
Correct.
So let's kind of bring this back to the individual who's had some sort of a an awakening that, hey, I'm going to be graduating soon and I got to go find a job. How can we use the entrepreneurial mindset? Because, jobs aren't quite as plentiful as they were, say, 3 months ago.
That's right.
This particular market. So how can we use that entrepreneurial mindset to help us be better at seeking? Instead of building a company, of course, that's not out of the question. We can always build something of our own, right? Which is kind of scary as hell too. But if we're going to use the entrepreneurial mindset to become employed, how do we do that?
So, it's interesting. It's a great question because, I have not worked in this pandemic environment before. None of us have, but I've worked with a lot of populations, people exiting prison, people exiting the military, people about to step off a cliff in their mind and saying, I'm not prepared for this. Right. Maybe I knew when my day was to depart this life, but I'm still not prepared. So I've worked with similar populations. And what I usually say is, you do need to ask yourself, what gift do I have to offer? And it could be that you are a great cook and you do want to start a food truck. Maybe that is it. But maybe you just have a fabulous analytical mind, but you don't yet have the technical knowledge to go out and be a cybersecurity expert. Right. So I think that you have to start with yourself. I don't bake cupcakes. I still bought a Cupcakery, but I had to morph it into something else, right? So you start really with, and what would you genuinely enjoy? So I think some folks, there are certainly opportunities right now, as you know. One of those opportunities is actually in education. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to go back to school. Maybe you're sitting here and you've just gotten your 4-year finance degree and you go, you know what, I always really wanted to be a chef. Or I want to work with homeless veterans. So I call these transformative moments. And I used to research years ago about how people evolve. And one thing was, some people it's just evolutionary. Your parents say you're 16, you get a drive, you're 18, you go to college. But sometimes there's a transformative experience. A parent dies, or you lose a limb, or something really kind of catastrophic. And that's what I think this generation of students is looking at, something we didn't anticipate. It feels catastrophic. You have to bear down and say, by golly, what opportunities just opened up for me? And it's not a natural way to think. I listened to a guy talk recently who said, under crisis like this, we do this catastrophic thinking. So everything seems worse. We magnify problems. What if you said to yourself, I'm going to magnify opportunities. I am going to do something I really secretly would have loved to have done. And so I think that's the first step is identifying your core thing. The second one is saying, where could that take me? Right. And you might start a business, And you may go out like the guy outside my yard right now, young man mowing my lawn, because that's his business.
That's what he does.
That's what he does. And he just started that during the shutdown. Because he needed, to put food on his table. And he went around and made the rounds, and he's got a pretty unsophisticated piece of machinery, and it's 100 degrees out there today, and I'm not out there mowing my yard. So, so there are definitely entrepreneurial ways to do it, but it could be you're going back to school. And both of those things are absolutely fine. I think that the sad thing is the people who say, gosh, I just got out of pharmacy school. My dream was to be a pharmacist. That's all I want to do. I don't want to go be a chef.
And I got
that thing I wanted.
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a big one. A large percentage of those who complete a degree do not work in that degree.
That's right. That's right.
We get locked into, I must be a this or that or the other thing. And I think the reality is all you really must do is find what it is you do well and find what it is you love to do, right? And hey, if it makes money, bonus, bonus, right? It becomes a business, but you have to love what you're doing. And sometimes we need to look for a direction and not a destination, right? Start heading in a particular direction. And not focus on.
That's very nicely said. I love that. I'm going to steal that from you.
You can, because I ripped it off from someone else. So it's not my work. I'm fessing right here. I ripped that off. I'll give that to Patty Cotton. Patty Cotton has been a guest on the show. I took that from her. So choose a destination, not or direction, not a destination, and be flexible. And I think the one thing that we need to understand about entrepreneurial mindset is they are flexible. Is that fair? Flexible, they're not fixed.
Yes, absolutely. Almost flexible to a fault. And I, I say that sometimes people around you don't give you the support because it confuses people.
Yeah.
They say, but you just went this direction. And usually for the entrepreneur, there is a real path,
Mm-hmm.
It may be circuitous, but there is a path and it does make sense to you. And it only needs to make sense to you.
Right.
But I get that accusation all the time. Well, you shift gears, no, not really. I just,
You have all these ideas,
Right.
The reality
Yes.
is their brain's kind of stuck and constipated, if you will, and they can't think of new things. Right?
Yes.
There's a fun word that we use in entrepreneurship. I'm going to ask you to give me some comment on it. That word is ideation.
Okay.
What is that? It sounds, do I need a cream? Is it a rash? What is that? Ideation. What's ideation?
Okay. So I think a lot of people, when they hear ideation, are really thinking about product development kinds of ideas.
Okay.
So you're going to be sitting there working for a Procter & Gamble and you're trying to ideate, right, the new product. For me, it's that, I hate to use brainstorming. I know that's such kind of a lame term, but it really is having the capacity to come up with not two solutions to a problem, but to start rolling and go, oh my gosh, there are 40 solutions to this problem. And that's a hard thing. When I work with students and I say, who are your competitors? And they'll say, nobody. That's the number one answer. No, I've got no competitors.
Yeah.
And then when you start drilling down, okay, you can have a bowling alley. Who are your competitors? No other bowling alleys in this state. But what else might people do? And so ideation is really developing that capacity to imagine almost endless, infinite possibilities. That to me is ideation. But ask somebody else and they're maybe going to tell you about product development.
Yeah. But so it's a fancy word for thinking deep, being creative, limitless, which would be a perfect way to be now when you're trying to figure out, hey, what am I going to do? How am I going to get a job? Where am I going to work? You have to be creative. You may not get where you thought you were going to go, but you have to go someplace. Susie, I think we are at the end of our time here today. If folks want to get with you and contact you and ask a question or know more about Susie Pryor, how could they do that?
Okay, well, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So if you look Susie Pryor, LinkedIn's my thing. I've gone through Facebook to Twitter to LinkedIn.
You started posting some things. I can see you're a regular participant there on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, I'm out there, man. 800 people read my last little blurb. Amazing. Yeah. So yes, LinkedIn is a great place to find me. I know sometimes there's barriers if you don't have common folks. The other thing would be my personal work email, which is Susie Pryor LLC, and Susie's SUSIE, Pryor PRYOR, like Richard Pryor, LLC @gmail.com. So,
I never thought of Richard Pryor when I thought of Susie Pryor, but okay.
I know, nobody ever does, and that's why they all misspell my name. They misspell my name. I gotta see the Richard Pryor thing.
They want to spell it PRI? Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
Sue.
I need to buy that. I gotta buy Susie Pryor because I need that.
So any final thoughts for our folks before you leave? Words of wisdom from Dr. Susie Pryor.
My biggest words of wisdom are, look for the opportunity. I mean, genuinely, I know it's an unnatural way of thinking right now, and you may have family and friends that are really struggling, and I appreciate that struggling. I genuinely do. But look for the opportunities around you, because change always creates opportunity.
Change does. Change does. And Susie and I were talking about this before the show. I'm going to mention it anyway, even though I said I wouldn't. But I believe, Susie, we'll have to research this now because I'm going to unveil it. I believe that the character in Chinese for chaos and opportunity are the same. And now we're going to have to look that up. So I think
I love that.
Similar or the same. So some see chaos. I think if you're entrepreneurial or even want to be a little bit different, you're going to be looking for the opportunity. It's not a crisis. It's just change. Change scares us to death. What is that opportunity in this change? All right, we're going to wrap it up right here. Thank you so much for being with us today. on
Great
the
seeing you.
Silvers Connection. It's so good to see you all the way from Storm Lake, Iowa. I have no idea where that is. Do they have to pump in
Come
something?
visit.
Come visit in
And you can
Storm.
travel.
Yeah, I'll call you in December and see if you're still loving it.
Please do.
All right.
All right.
Let's
See you,
wrap it
Ernie.
up right here. Thank you for joining us on the Silvers Connection. You can find us on the MBA YouTube channel. That's MBA CSUSB, MBA CSUSB. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn, or you can send us an email at mba@csusb.edu. Ernie Silvers signing off for this edition with Susie Pryor. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time on Silvers Connection. Bye-bye.